Hey everyone, welcome back to the Famous Warrior YouTube channel. To everyone who's joining us for the first time, we would like to say a big welcome. My name is Chilombo Grace Montah, and I'm sure you must be wondering what I'm doing here. Well, today I've decided to take over the Famous Warrior YouTube channel. And so I'm here with the honor and privilege to have my friends on the podcast today, and that is Famous Warrior Louise Mupeta and her husband Ceaser. We're going to be talking about becoming mommy and daddy. So that's their journey of becoming mommy and daddy. So I would like to ask for a small favor from you guys. Please like the video, share it with your friends, and so that you don't miss any other videos that we'll be uploading, please turn on your notification bell. So without further ado, I would like to just ask my friends to introduce themselves for the sake of those who are joining us for the very first time.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Louise Mupeta. I am the founder of the Famous Warrior Foundation or ministry, whatever you want to call it. I am a mom, I'm a wife, I am a faith-driven entrepreneur and a foodie.
Oh, okay. My name is Ceaser Mupeta, and I am husband and everything else that she mentioned, an entrepreneur, ministry guy, yeah.
So I'm going to start with our first question, and I'm sure everyone must be wondering why we're talking about becoming mommy and daddy. And these guys have a unique story that even I have the privilege of listening to for the very first time. So first and foremost, could you guys give us a background of, you've told us you are a mom and everything, but this particular story we're talking about the fact that you guys lost 2 kids prior to having the ones that you have. So could you give us a backstory? How did that all happen?
So we had initially agreed that we were going to wait 5 years before starting a family. But when 3 years rolled around, we kind of felt like, okay, I think it's time now. I don't think there's ever like a perfect time to start having kids where like, okay, now everything is like in place. But we just felt like majority of the stuff that we wanted to have in place was in place, and we felt like it was time. So we planned out, you know, when we were gonna start trying, how that would affect, you know, the duration, the season, when I would be pregnant, and when the baby would roughly be born, all those things. And thankfully to God, we got pregnant right away, you know. The journey was interesting. First pregnancy things, all the things. I was going through all the things. But 5 months, about 5.5 months down the line, one morning I woke up and I was spotting. And it being my first pregnancy, I didn't really know what that meant. I wasn't in any pain or anything like that. So I kind of felt like, okay, is this normal? Should I panic? What should I do? So we called the hospital to find out if our doctor was going to be there, made an appointment. And before that appointment, I needed to meet my mom to help her with something. So we went to meet my mom, and I explained to her what I was experiencing. And she was like, oh, no, that's normal. It happens sometimes. But anyway, you will see what the doctor says. So that kind of put me at ease, because I felt like, okay, she says it's normal, so I guess it is. And then we went to see the doctor. And immediately the doctor was under the assumption that I was going into preterm labor because I had a condition called incompetent cervix. But he needed to prove that theory. So as he was running some tests trying to prove that theory, he then discovered that I had an infection inside the amniotic sac. And so he kind of changed his theory to, okay, what is happening is that your body is rejecting the pregnancy, trying to get rid of the infection before it puts you in danger. So he kind of ran us through what was happening, what that would mean, and basically he basically just told us this is already happening. There's nothing we can do to stop it, and I wouldn't even want to stop it, because the longer we keep this infection in your system, so to say, the higher the risk that you could then get seriously ill. So yeah, that's basically what happened that afternoon. And then chime in?
Yeah, I remember that afternoon, and something she did mention was that when we spoke to the doctor, he said, okay, since your cervix is opening, we can try and close it, but as he actually said two things: we can try and close it, but if it's an infection, that is because he had already taken the tests and stuff, and he was waiting. So he said, if we find out that you actually have an infection, then there's nothing we can do. We can't close an infection.
Yeah.
We can't close in the infection. It means that we have to let the process just take its course. So he said, okay, I'm gonna give you a room. You go and try and put your legs up, and we see whether it can. He wanted to see something before he can, switch her up. So he came back and said, look, this is an infection, so there's nothing we can do. I can't suture you up because of the infection. We have to let it just run its course. I think I actually did ask, how long are we gonna have to wait? But he just said, I'm not sure, maybe a day or what. And we kept on thinking, I kept on thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this man, he was very candid, I should mention. He was very just blunt.
Very clinical,
very just, this is what's gonna happen. And I just felt, okay, yeah, we're gonna believe, we're gonna pray, believe the report of the Lord, and just pray. So we were waiting for Louise's mom and her sister to come. So when they came, I remember we were in the car in the parking lot, and then they came and we told them the news. I remember she just started crying. Is there anything we can do? Is there a second opinion? Can we? So we're just like, we don't know.
Yeah. We
just felt like at least we hadn't, one day, like he said, maybe a day or something, where we could really just, think about second opinions, or even have some time to pray and get your faith in line, those things.
Yeah.
And we went, that's how we went home. We just said, look, we're gonna go home and just think about this.
Yeah. So
we went home that night, and we went to bed. And I remember, I think it was, between 23 to midnight. Louise got up to go to the bathroom, and then she just started crying. So I was quickly woken up. And, because I have this thing where if I wake up so fast, I get I feel dizzy, like I'm going to pass out. If I don't know what it is, but if I don't wait, so when I'm in a deep sleep, if I wake up, I have to wait for a few minutes and stuff before I completely get on my feet, because if I just get up and get on my feet, I feel lightheaded. So that time, because I heard her crying, so I just got up, went into the bathroom, and then I opened the door, and she was just crying. She said, something is wrong. And I started thinking, oh my God, like, what are we going to... And as I was thinking about what to do and trying to think about what was going on, I started feeling lightheaded. Like, I just felt dizzy. Then I sat down on the floor, and I was waiting for my body to stabilize. And as I was thinking, but she was crying, distraught. And at that moment, for me, usually when there's trouble around, like when there's something's happening, I go into this fix mode where I'm not thinking about anything else but this has to be taken care of. And I don't know. I think I don't know what happens to me. So I went into that mode, and I'm just thinking, okay, we need to go. We need to go to the hospital.
Started packing stuff in this bag.
I don't even remember what.
We packed everything we needed.
Yeah, so I called ahead. No, we're coming, and they said, okay, we're gonna tell the doctor to be here. So when we reached the hospital, we found that the doctor who had seen us wasn't there yet. But they said, no, go and see the general doctor. He had come quickly because I think he lived further. So yeah, so at this point, what was going through my mind was, look, Lord, I thought we had more hours than this. This was we just got this news in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, we were told this was going to happen, but not right now. Like, this is too soon. So the doctor that we saw is like an Egyptian man, and we went into his office. He's asking us weird questions, and then he's saying, no, I need to see what, and then he was just so... The man was shaking, like he was visibly shaking.
He was scared.
He was scared. And I was like, what is going on here? So at that point, he just said, no, we need to take you to the room, to the maternity ward or something. Yeah, so I was really like very nervous. I was thinking, okay, what's going to happen now? This doctor doesn't seem to know what he's doing. So lucky enough, when they took us to the maternity ward, the doctor that we were seeing came. Yeah. He was, obviously he knew what he was doing. He knew what he told us. I should mention here that we were just the two of us, because when all this started happening and when we started going to the hospital, we tried calling everyone. We called Louise's mom. We called everybody. All their phones were on silent because they were sleeping.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So please don't put your phones on silent.
Yeah. Every one of them.
So we were just the only person we managed. We managed to get through to Benjamin, who graciously came.
Yeah.
And so he came, the doctor came, and he just told me, like, look, this is what I told you. He even said, like, I was shocked. You know how God does things? God knows. He's all-knowing. We all know that God is all-knowing. But then again, we all know that God doesn't cause these bad things to happen to us. But he knows these things are going to happen. That he prepares. So I was shocked because the person I met in the afternoon, that doctor, who was very candid and plain and just said whatever, when I met him again when this was happening he was a totally different person.
He was more compassionate.
I was shocked.
Yeah, that's true.
He was so different. He just said, Ceaser, like, I know this is what I said. I'm so sorry this is happening. He changed. Like, he just changed.
Now that you mention it, he did use my name a lot.
Yeah. He even changed. He started using the names.
He made physical contact. Whenever he needed to tell me something, like, he would make physical contact. I never thought of that before.
Yeah. So he started telling me that, okay, we need to induce labor. We can't. This is going to it might affect Louise. And that's going to be dangerous, so we need to make a decision. And I remember looking around, trying to look for the person to make the decision.
It's you, bro.
It's you.
I was like, Lord, this is too heavy. This is like I've just been married 3 years to this person. Like, where's the mother? But then, then I was like, wait a minute, I have to make the decision.
Yeah.
So I just told him, like, look, let's do whatever you need to do to protect Louise. So I went into the room and I told her, I remember telling her that, you know, that we could try and have a baby again, but there was no way I was going to get back Louise if I lost you. So for me, that was like a no-brainer. I knew what to do. It was difficult, but I knew what to do. Yeah, so that's what happened. I regret not being in the room with her. It was too much for me to bear, seeing her like that, and just, it was too much. So I went and sat in the lobby. I could hear her screaming. I could hear everything that was going on, but you know, I think she'll be able to say like what was going on in the room, because I wasn't in there.
Yeah, no, it, again, back to the fact that I was alone. You know, my mom wasn't there, my sister wasn't there. It was just me, and the doctor like started the induction and then he left. So I was just in that room, and again, back to what he was saying about God preparing, a midwife kind of came in, kind of funnily, you know, with her frizit. She was eating a frizit. She came and then just sat on the bed next to me. And I remember in that moment being very aware that I had no idea what to expect. Again, this was my first pregnancy. Aside from what we see in the movies about labor, which is not true, guys. I really didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what to expect. And I asked her, like, I was like, sister, what's supposed to happen? Like, you know, what's going to happen? And she was like, oh, you know, it dawned on her that, oh, I needed to, you know, kind of coach you through this. So she came, she stood by me. She kind of felt, you know, she could feel like, okay, the contractions are starting. And she said, when you start feeling now that urge to push, you should tell me, so that I can check you. Don't push before that time. You know, she gave me all these cues and stuff. And I thank God that it didn't take long, because within like an hour, 30 minutes, under 2 hours, I gave birth. One of the things the doctor was really, really concerned about was that the amniotic sac didn't break. So essentially, he didn't want the waters to break because there was an infection. So he didn't want any chance of that infection entering my body in any way. So thankfully, that went according to his plan. And when I was done delivering, I remember the midwife brought this like echima dish. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like, you know, those plastic dishes that you have in your kitchen for when you want to make like a big potato salad, or like a big, plastic one. I even remember it was green. I remember the color of it. I remember how it looked. She stepped out and came with that, and they basically just collected everything and put it in there, allowed me to get up, to get changed. And I remember the doctor asking me, would you like to see your baby? And in that moment, like, you have to make this split-second decision. There's no one else there to help you make this decision. And in that moment, in my mind, what I thought was going to happen was them just bringing that chima dish to me and, oh, here, see your baby. And I couldn't do that. So I said no. And that's something that I regretted. It's something that the devil really used to mess with me, you know, for months after that, because it made me feel like I was a bad mom for not wanting to see my baby, or not wanting to have a moment with my baby. Even if the baby was not born alive, like, I would have had a moment, you know, to say goodbye or whatever. But that didn't happen. So we never got to know the gender of this first baby that we lost, because we didn't see the baby. And man, that really messed with me for a long time. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine and saying, like, I feel like a bad mom. Like, I feel like in that moment when I should have stepped up and been a mom and been brave enough, I couldn't. And something that she said really freed me. She said, Louise, you did what you needed to do to stay sane. And I had never thought of it like that. But it's true. Like, neither of them told me, like, oh, you know, we'll take the baby, we'll clean the baby up. Or there was no context to that decision that I needed to make. And so, yeah, that's what happened. We were asked to stay the night because the doctor wanted to make sure for certain that I had not gotten the infection. They still needed to run a few tests, and so he gave the midwife instructions to keep checking my temperature through the night and said he would see us in the morning. So yeah, that's what happened.
Wow, you guys, that's my first time hearing that story as well. And
That's weird to me, eh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like hearing it in its totality.
Yeah.
I guess part of it is because, was I there that time?
No,
I
you
wasn't.
weren't. You're
Oh,
at school.
yes, that's why. Okay, so what I would like us to do is I would like to lay a foundation because obviously there are two different experiences, and so we want to hear both of them before we have any other follow-up questions. So what I will ask is that you give us the second experience. You've given us the first, we've heard it, so how was the second one? How did the second one happen?
Okay. So what happened after the first was a week later we were told to go back to the hospital for a review. In that review was a conversation about, okay, so you had an infection and that's what caused your body to begin to reject the pregnancy. That happens 1 in every 1,000 pregnancies. So the chances of this happening to you again are slim to none. I'm sorry that this happened, but like we said, you can try again. And what he advised us was to have time to grieve, have time to process. I remember he even asked what kind of support we had, and he recommended that we wait 6 months before trying again. And so we left there taking on that advice. I remember feeling like 6 months was just so long for me. It just felt so long because I had already made up my mind that I wanted to be a mom now. So I just felt like that was a roadblock that I needed to really overcome. In prayer, I asked God for strength. And I remember telling God, I'll wait till Easter. And Easter was like 4 months away. But I told God, I'll wait till Easter and then I'll do whatever you ask me to do after that. And I even had a calendar. Like I would literally cross off the days every day till Easter. And when Easter rolled around the following year, I was already pregnant. So I didn't even like wait until like after Easter to be like, okay, it already happened. So we were excited, you know. I was in a space where I believed what the doctor said. This is 1 in every 1,000. Yes, I was sad that it had happened, but I felt like, well, this is life. Crappy things happen, and I guess this was my crappy thing, and I'm gonna move past that. So I was excited when I, you know, got when I got to know that I was pregnant again. I was excited to move past that pain. And we actually had to start seeing the doctor twice a month instead of once a month because he still wanted to rule out the probability of that idea that he had that I possibly could have had an incompetent cervix. So he was doing all the things.
He kept on checking. He kept on checking. He said, we are literally going to be checking every time. When we'd go for a visit, he would check and say everything's fine.
Yeah.
So he just kept on checking. He was very, very diligent in that sense.
So we got to the 5-month mark again. And at this point, our doctor was getting ready to relocate. So again, he did his usual vigilant check. He said, your cervix is fine. And usually if you have this condition, it presents itself at around 3 months. So the fact that you're at 5 months and we haven't seen any issue, I would say we can err on the side of believing that you don't have this condition. However, for the next 1 month, I would still recommend that wherever you decide to go, whether you choose to stay at this hospital or you choose to go to another hospital because I'm leaving, that you request for them to check you. Again, twice a month. And then when you're kind of past the 6-month point and it's still not an issue, then I think you're fine. We were on progesterone. We were on, no heavy lifting, all these minor precautions that he basically was trying to do everything that he could do to make sure that we were okay. And I remember in the last, it ended up not being the last, but it was supposed to have been our last visit with him. He checked again, said, okay, this is like basically the last time I'll be seeing you guys. Wherever you go, this is what you need to check. And he mentioned the surgery. He mentioned to say, usually this situation presents itself at 3 months, and at that point we would have done a suture. But we're past that point, and you seem fine, so I don't think that's necessary. A week later, I started having sciatica, and it was the first time that I had ever had that. I didn't know what it was, so I panicked. We went to see him. At that point, it was before he had left, so that now ended up being our last time. Again, he checked that day. He was like, okay, you're fine, sciatica, this is what you can do, massage the leg, kind of gave us what we needed to do, and that was that. A week later, we went now to a new hospital because we decided, okay, we want to go and see this other doctor that we had heard good reviews on and stuff. Went there that day. We saw what's the person that's called, the person that does the scan, what are they called?
The scan man.
We went to see the scan man.
I know they've got a terminology there.
Yes.
Sorry, but
we went to see the scan man, and he did the scan. We told him what to look out for, so he checked that, but obviously he couldn't read the results to us. And unfortunately, that day the doctor that we were supposed to see was coming from somewhere else.
No, he the only thing he did is that he told us it was a girl.
Yes. Yeah, but in terms of the checking the cervix and all that, he scanned for that, but he couldn't say anything to us.
Yeah, so after he told us that it was a girl, I got a vibe, but I wasn't too sure what it was. I got a vibe, but I wasn't too sure what it was. And then he said, "Oh, you need to go to the front desk, and then they'll get you to a doctor and stuff, so that you can see the doctor." So when we went by the front desk, she looked at the results. I got another vibe.
Really?
Yeah, I got another vibe. So then I started wondering, why is everybody looking like there's something wrong? She said, okay, you need to see the doctor. So I said, no, can we come? I think I even tried to suggest, it was like 18, it was late. So I was like, it was going like late. So I said, can we come tomorrow? What? She refused. So I'm thinking, okay, what's going on here? She said, no, I think you need to see her now.
So I didn't know about these vibes that he was getting. What I did know was that I was tired and I wanted to go home. And Caesar kept insisting, and I didn't know why he kept insisting. So now I know. I guess now I know, because it was vibes. But yeah, the doctor was supposed to have been there at 16 hours. This was now around 18. Apparently they were called into emergency theater where they were, and that delayed them. Then they got stuck in traffic. So we waited, I think, until 19 hours because the nurse literally would not let us leave. She kept saying, no, I've called them, they're almost here. I've called them, they're almost here. And when Caesar finally went to tell her, look, this is now almost 19, she's tired, we need to go home, she needs to eat. That's kind of when she kind of said, okay, but you need to come back first thing in the morning and I'll make sure you're the first person that is seen. So we left, came back first thing the next morning, and we were waiting. I remember feeling so much joy. I remember that day, and we were goofing around in the lobby as we were waiting. We were with my sister, just laughing. But I remember feeling so much joy, especially because we had found out that it was a girl. and we already had a name picked out, and just that, I don't know, it was just this joy bubbling in me. And I vividly remember that day being before we saw the doctor and after we saw the doctor, in terms of how I felt on the inside. We finally got in to see the doctor, and the doctor was just, she was visibly,
She was crazy. That's what she was. No, I'm
she
serious.
was
Like, she
kind of
was
crazy. She was kind of crazy, yes. But I think she was also just a bit panicked.
She didn't
She
look
showed
panicked
her
to
panic.
me. She didn't look panicked to me.
No, because she kept doing things
She
like,
looked at the thing.
you know, is this
And
your
then
first pregnancy?
She
Is
asked
this...
a few questions, and then she's like, "Oh, your cervix is open."
Yeah.
Just like that.
That's what she said.
Your cervix is open.
And we were like, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
A week ago we got checked, everything was fine.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means you need surgery. Okay, what does that mean? You know, it's like we kept on having to ask her to explain to us. And that was a Saturday morning. And she said, no, we need to have a surgery on Monday. Go and see the midwife that was like taking care of you. Ask her about, you know, the room. You need to book a room. Ask her about the cost and all that stuff. And she let us go. We went to see the midwife. The midwife asked me about my history. When I told her about having lost the first baby, her whole demeanor like changed. And she was just, everybody just looked panicked, like, yeah, but she just said, okay, the room, what, she gave us the price. And I remember walking out of there feeling very confused and feeling like, no, I'm not going to accept this.
Yeah.
I want to end on you're having a girl. That's what I want to end on. I'm not going to accept this. And we got into the car, and I remember just saying, I want a second opinion.
So at that moment, my fixed mode kicked in. We're seated in the car, and she was saying what I mean. She was talking about I needed second opinion, and my fixed mode just kicked in. We called one of our doctor friends, who we explained to him what was going on, what had happened before, because, you know, some people didn't even know. And he just said, there is a doctor that I know. She's really good. Let me see where she is right now, because, you know, doctors just consult different places. Let me see where she is, and then I'll give you I'll send you the contacts. So he quickly talked to her. Afterwards, he called me back, and he said, no, she's actually saying that she's literally just arriving today, and after telling her what is going on, she actually said she needs to see you today. And she said, you can go to this hospital, and she can see you. I think that was maybe like 17:30 or something. So we went home, started getting ready. Again, it was a moment where you're thinking, okay, this can't be possibly happening again.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but at that moment, for me, I wasn't really thinking a lot of things, because I had gone into my fixed mode.
I was scared.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking much. I was just waiting to see what she would say. So we went to the hospital. That same hospital. She came in. They told us, okay, you can go to the room. This was the first time we're meeting her. Walked into the room. She greeted us. We introduced ourselves, and she just said, okay, I need to check you, Louise. From the moment we first, it was love at first sight. If she's watching this, it was love at first sight. And then she just said, okay, Louise, I need to check you. Sit on the bed. She checked Louise. Then she just said, Ceaser, come. And then she said, okay, I need you to see. And then she told me, can you see? I said, yeah, I can see. And then she said, it's open right now, and we need to close it. like immediately. We can't waste any time. And she said, this is a rescue. There is no guarantee, because this should have been done a long time ago, even before it opens. Once you start seeing, she said, once you start seeing the membranes, then that's you're pretty much, I'm not gonna use that word, but you're yeah, I'm gonna do it too. But yeah, so
really?
yeah, you're pretty much in trouble.
Yeah.
So things were happening. So how are you guys? It wasn't even a question of, do you guys have money? I think she just said, we need to do this now.
Yeah.
Nurse, let me call the nurse. She didn't even allow me to do anything, talk about what. But it was just happening so fast.
Yeah.
This time around, what was different was that the phones were on. It was a night time. And I think the pastors were around as well. Everybody, the first time they were not around, but this time they were around. So we called in reinforcements, and so she just said, "Okay, nurse, prepare what. We're going here." It happened so fast. Before I could say surgery, everything was happening. And I think at that time when she now, I'll let her say the other end of her story, but at that moment the Calvary came in, and the pastors were in, everybody was in. It was I think when she had gone into surgery, everybody came now. And I remember her, like she's I don't know at which point she said this, but she just said, I've never seen anything like that. Like you guys.
She kind of even asked, like, who are you people? Like,
because she didn't know us. So she was like,
backup.
Where did all this backup came? Like backup came. Like it's like no man's business.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the difference with that one. You want to say the story?
What I remember about being in the theater, again, I was very scared. When you just hear the word surgery, yeah, just like, what is going to happen? And at that point, no, there was no time to even say, no, Louise, don't worry, let's pray for you. Like, there's no time for that.
Oh, I should mention, sorry to cut you short, but before she continues, I should mention that both of these times, like I had called my dad, because obviously my mom was late. My dad was still alive then. So I had called my dad, and he, in this time around, he also called my my relative who was also a guy, and they all said no, she needed the suture and all these things. So when we talked about that, like Louise kept on saying, I can't.
Yeah.
She was so scared.
What
She was so scared, and I was even getting upset at some point.
I mean, when you hear the word suture,
yeah,
it's not exactly something that you're like, yay, sign me up, Yeah.
We can continue.
But when we entered the theater, I remember the doctor was on one side and the nurse, the theater nurse, was on the other side. And they didn't know me from Adam. They didn't know my religious background. They didn't know anything. But I remember the doctor saying, "Sister, you can pray." And they both put their hands on my belly, and the scrub nurse led the prayer. And she basically said, "Lord, we are just your servants. We are just your hands, but life is in your hands. So we are giving this over to you. We're going to do our part, but we're giving this over to you." And the calm that just came over me was just so overwhelming. I just had peace, even though I had no idea what they were going to do to me. I didn't understand the intricacies involved in that surgery and what it really meant, but I just felt so much peace. The anesthesiologist came in. Before I know it, I was asleep. I remember that while I was under, I had a dream, but I don't remember the details of that dream.
We should call the what?
Anesthesiologist.
The sleep man. Since the other one was the scan man.
The sleep man came. Yeah, and before I knew it, I was, being wheeled out. I was very groggy, and I remember being moved, from the other bed now to the bed that I was gonna be in the room, and all these faces are just like over me. Again, everyone was there, and just feeling like, okay, is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? And once the doctor got everybody to leave, she sat down and she explained that, okay, this is what's now going to happen. We did the rescue suture, so you're now going to have to be on bed rest for the rest of your pregnancy. We'll write you all the forms that you need, work-wise, whatever, don't worry about that. But this is what it means. You can't do this, you can't do this. And she said, we'll see you in a week. But like we said, we prayed and let's leave it up to God. So by that evening, we were discharged. Or was it the next day? I can't really remember.
Yeah, I can't really remember. Maybe it was.
Yeah, so I came home to a whole new routine.
Yeah.
Those who know me know, like, I'm a doer. I like to do stuff, and it was like 100 to 0. You can't do anything, as in nothing. You can't even hold a broom. Like, you can't do anything. So again, reinforcements came in, support came in, people were cooking meals and all that stuff. That week went by pretty smoothly. And so it was Saturday to Sunday. We were supposed to have seen her on a Saturday, but she was out of town. And she said, you'll come and see me on Sunday afternoon. We had our appointment booked and everything. I remember that Saturday evening starting to just feel very lethargic. Even while I remember we were watching a movie, and while we were watching a movie, even though the movie was not an emotional movie, I was just feeling very emotional. Yeah, trying to hide that. I remember that evening, I noticed that I had started spotting, so I freaked out, messaged the doctor. She was like, no, like, you had surgery, so some things were tampered with. So spotting is not really a big issue. It's to be expected, but we'll see you tomorrow. So that also like helped me a bit. Went to bed, and I think around 3 a.m. My labor started. I remember not wanting to wake Ceaser up and feeling like, okay, Lord, it's me and you here. I'm gonna just trust you. I started praying in the spirit. 5 a.m. Ceaser got up. I told him, what was happening, and he had to go to church to lead worship. So he left, he went to church. I was with my sister, thankfully. And the plan we made was that as he got to church, someone was then going to come and pick me up and take me to the hospital, which is what happened. Got to the hospital, under the doctor's instruction, because she wasn't yet back, I was given some medication, which in the time it took for me, I took the medication, and in the time it took for me to drive back home, the pains had stopped. So I was like, okay, it's worked, we're out of the woods, this is not going to happen. I'll see the doctor in the afternoon, and this is fine. Ceaser came over with one of the pastors and one of the ladies from church. They prayed. My mom came home, my aunts and all. You guys came. And I think around noon, it was like, okay, the labor started and then it stopped. And then by noon, it was like, now we are like in the third stage of labor. Like, so it just went like from nothing to like, we're back and we're here to stay. And Ceaser kept calling the doctor, how far are you? How far are you? And I remember she just kept saying, no, I'm like this many minutes away. And my mom just said, can we just go now? At least we'll be at a hospital. Like, yes, that doctor won't be there, but at least we will be at a hospital, because at this point now, they were literally just coming in waves. Yeah, they were just coming in waves, the contractions. So we all left, got into the car. By the time I was reaching the hospital, it was like unbearable. Like, this is happening. This baby is coming. the nurse came quickly with a wheelchair, and I remember her thinking, you don't look that big, you know. Took me to the labor ward. She was getting ready to deliver this baby, putting on gloves, and at that point I even remember one contraction came where my hand was holding that little, like the trolley where they put all their instruments, and I was just like bearing down. And she's like, okay, you know, I saw her putting on her gloves, and it just dawned on me that she had no idea that I had a suture in, and she couldn't take the suture out. So I said, sister, I have a suture. And then it was like, hey, guys, how far is the doctor? You know, and my mom just kept asking Ceaser, how far? Because the one thing that you'd want to say to someone in that situation is hold it, but you can't hold it. Like, it's not, the baby is coming, I can't hold it.
Yeah.
I remember the doctor came running in.
I literally was on my phone because I was in between being told, mom asking, you know,
how far,
hearing Louise scream, to rushing out and calling again, where are you? She said no, she was coming from the Copper Belt.
Yeah.
She's now telling you, no, I'm at Hero Stadium. And you're like, oh goodness. I went into the parking lot, like literally at one point she even told me, she said, I think she could hear it in my voice, but she said, Ceaser, I hope you know what's going to happen when I reach.
Yeah.
And then I said, I don't really care. I just need you to come. And so it was literally touch and go. I was in the parking lot. I saw her drive in. I saw her come out. I saw her running inside.
She literally came in running. The nurse put the gloves on. It was a very quick thing, and the baby was just out. And I remember laying there thinking, I don't hear anyone crying. And then it was almost like I was having this out-of-body experience, because the minute I recognized that my baby was not crying, I started sobbing. It was like, it didn't even sound like me. It sounded like someone else. And in that moment, I remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, she will live and not die. And so I thought, oh, okay. And then when the doctor came and said, you know, her lungs are too small, they're underdeveloped, she's not going to make it, I felt like God had lied to me. In that moment, I really felt like God had lied to me. I got up, I was able to see this baby, I was able to meet her, she was alive. She stayed alive for a few minutes, maybe just under 30 minutes. I remember her face, I remember her eyes, I remember the color of her skin. But yeah, we lost her too. And that really, really sucked.
Yeah. I remember the doctor coming out of the room. She was distraught. She was just, she couldn't even look me in the eye. She just said, I'm so sorry, Ceaser. And she left. Like she couldn't handle it.
Wow.
Yeah, I went into the room. I saw her. I don't really remember much. But I remember seeing her.
Wow.
I remember seeing her, and yeah, that was it. But again, everybody was there. We had a lot of support, and that made it easier.
Yeah.
Wow. Just listening to the story, I'm also, I'm
reliving it.
Yes, I'm kind of reliving it, but also hearing it from the side of the people who were actually going through it. I'm thinking what you must have been feeling in that moment. So listening to you guys, I would like us to go back to, let's say, 2 weeks before. 2 weeks before, here you were expecting the second baby, hopeful, and then we now fast forward to, let's say, 3 weeks. 3 weeks, which is like a week after everything has happened, everyone has gone home, and it's just the two of you. tell me about life in that first week after the losing of the babies.